We must stay alive.
So, welcome to episode 5 of Conversations on Eagle Mountain, a podcast about the tribe. I'm your host, Lance, and joining me on the panel today is Liz, Sabine, and Hill. So, welcome, everyone.
Hi.
Hey.
Hello.
Episode 5, we have our first new director, which is Lawrence Wilson, and the screenplay was done by Harry Duffin. Episode synopsis will be read out by Sabine.
Bray still hasn't returned, and Trudy continues to be ill, preventing her from feeding the newborn baby and prompting Dal to make the dangerous trek to his father's surgery at the abandoned hospital for antibiotics. Meanwhile, Amber takes charge and implements a rationing system for food and water, much to the dismay of Lex and Ryan, who bully Jack into doubling their portions.
Okay, so let's kick things off with episode 5 by discussing and trying to unravel the enigma that is Bray. So, in our last podcast, we did touch on whether we originally believed that he abandoned Trudy or not, but let's look a bit deeper into his actions. So, with episode 5, we obviously it gets revealed that we see Bray scavenging for specific baby supplies for Trudy. So, a couple of questions, but firstly, what were your thoughts on Bray raiding the Demon Dog's big supply stores? Was it a pretty stupid move, or were you impressed by how brave he was for doing that? What were your thoughts about tackling the Demon Dogs?
I was mainly surprised that he didn't go for those supplies earlier, and then when he finally did, he brings back one friggin' pair of nappies that's gonna last like 2 days or so, when there's a whole box.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty stupid that he would go there, and why do the Demon Dogs, why have they gotten the supply of nappies? What? The one tribe that doesn't seem to have it would be that.
They seemed prepared, and they had girls.
True.
I mean, it seems like they've kind of raided a supermarket or something and have stocked up all their shelves, but it is a weird thing to keep for them.
See, I always thought it looked like an abandoned warehouse type deal, so maybe they would. But
I thought it was just a warehouse that they happened to find, and that's what was in it.
Yeah,
that makes more sense.
They didn't pick what would be in the warehouse. They picked it because, it had stuff. Some of it's useful to them, some of it's not. It's like going to Walmart, if you decide that's where you're going to make your base camp. There's plenty of stuff in there you'd never use and you don't need, but it's tons of stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
It is strange how Bray knew would have nappies, though. It's a bit...
Yeah.
I don't think he knew. You see him searching all kinds of places before he even gets to the warehouse. So he didn't know exactly where to go. He was just searching. You can tell he had a list of places that might bear fruit of what he was looking for, like the overturned stroller in the street. He was just looking anywhere, and then he came upon the warehouse, took his chances because it was empty.
See, I don't think that... I think, if the Demon Dogs made that warehouse their base, I think word would eventually get out around the kids. And that would be, the one place I would avoid. Yes, it's a warehouse. Yeah, it might have good things. But that's also sneaking into the lion's lair. And that's a dumb decision.
On the matter of that, why wasn't it guarded when he got in?
See, that always made me wonder, if it wasn't guarded, it's quite possible maybe it wasn't one of their main hangouts. I mean, as Hill just pointed out, if Bray knew that was a Demon Dog hangout, why would he risk going in there? And if it was a main hangout, why would they leave it completely unguarded?
I'm just watching back the episode. It was graffitied with Demon Dogs. I mean...
Yeah, they knew it was there.
Yeah, kind of knew, but I don't know why it wasn't guarded. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, it's clearly a hangout because they have couches and everything in the middle of a warehouse.
So I guess they were just counting on their reputation to keep people away. But, that makes sense. There are plenty of people who would be too afraid to check it out. But, Bray's it's empty. Let me see if I can duck in real quick.
But,
we see him in the future. He is willing to take those risks to find food. That's not the only time he raids the demon dogs. So he's not afraid to try it. My only question about Bray going there, I didn't think it was stupid. I thought it was a smart risk considering the situation. If I had to provide for my children, I would take those kind of risks. But I felt like Sabine. I thought it was strange that he waited until the last minute to find any of these things. He has a gigantic bag. He's one of the few people who carries a pack, and I just thought it was strange that he didn't already have a baby bottle or baby formula or just a pack of nappies for that. And, who knew when the baby was going to come? The baby could have come early, and I did think that was strange of him to wait to the last minute.
I feel like in a survival situation, they probably thought they had time, and they were trying to pack things that were more useful as the time was presently in front of them.
Even says when Celine asks, when's the baby due? Trudy literally says, any day now. You know what I mean?
Maybe now is the time to go looking for things, not weeks beforehand. Because it is still every baby
book will tell you you're preparing.
Pack it to go bag.
That's a baby book when you have a hospital and a house and a thing. I don't think people who are on the street homeless who are pregnant are necessarily thinking about months in advance. They hope that they would have.
Yeah, but again, I'm sorry. I can't get on board with his lack of planning. He knew what he was going to need. And he's been in places where he could have easily picked up small things. I'm not saying he needed to have a storage full of things for the baby. I'm just saying, again, this is someone who knew he needed scissors for the birth, never picked up any scissors. This is someone who knew he needed rubber bands and clean linens and never even picked up a towel. You know what I mean? It's just
stupid.
I can't wrap my head around that. I'm not.
I think they thought that maybe by the time the baby was there would be a hospital or someone who was better equipped.
Trudy may have hoped for that. I mean, she mentioned hoping to find someone. Bray's not that stupid.
We've talked a lot about baby blankets and Jack and his radio and I think Paul and his cochlear implants I've always thought have been their what is it? Their link back to before with the adults. I think Trudy's link to wanting there to be adults was that there would be a hospital and someone to help deliver the baby. Because of that, there was never a need to get scissors or rubber bands because they thought that what would happen that there would be somewhere where that was available.
Yeah, but I don't think anything Bray does supports that. You know what I mean? He's aware. Trudy may have hoped, and I totally understand her hoping that. I would have hoped too if I were her. But Bray seemed to be very aware of what he was going to need and what the situation was going to call for. And he was the one living in reality, while Trudy was not. And I'll just never be able to reconcile his lack of thinking there. I don't know how someone can be so smart and so dumb at the same time.
Yeah, sticking with Bray, let's follow that through because does his complete lack of explanation for anything he does that annoy you, or does it build a part of his mystique? Do you like that part of him, or
it would drive me crazy at any age?
Yeah.
At any
Bray
age,
just annoys me.
I mean, the thing is, I love Bray as a character. I really do. I think he's great, but I know that in real life, Bray would drive me banana sandwich. I'd be like, I know you're a good guy, but why can't you just talk to me? Why can't you just tell me what's going on? I don't know how Bray didn't think for a second that the minute he bailed after this baby was born, that people wouldn't get the wrong idea. It never crosses his mind. He's shocked. He's totally shocked that they thought he would leave. You didn't tell anyone where you were going, and you've already bailed on these people before. Oh my goodness. I know he's a good guy. He's got great intentions. But at any age, that would drive me nuts.
Why do you think it is that he doesn't feel like he owes anyone any explanation at all? What do you think it is about it?
He describes himself. In later seasons, he describes that, well, not later seasons, but later on, he will explain that when he was growing up, his brother was the baby of the family. Bray was more the loner. He was very independent. He was a lot like Chloe. They have that in common, where they just kind of disappear and do their thing, and they don't explain to anybody where they've gone or what they're doing. They don't feel like they owe anybody any explanations. And I think he's just always been in the habit of doing that. And he's still kind of a dumb kid, so it hasn't occurred to him that people are going to get the wrong idea when you do that. And because he knows he has good intentions, he doesn't assume that others will think he has ill intent, because he wouldn't hurt anybody. That's not Bray's thing. So he's shocked that someone else would think bad of his actions and get the wrong idea from his actions.
On that point, I always thought he just assumed he could get away with bloody murder because he was so used to being the popular kid, the one that all the girls fall for, the one that gets away with everything.
That's what I've always thought. Like, he's the football player, he's the quarterback. The high school girls are fawning over him left and right, and Bray can do no wrong because he's the blonde-haired poster child.
You know what it reminds me of? When I was growing up, I remember my neighbor, he put his picnic table in the backyard and he chained it to this big pole. And I asked my mom, why is he chaining the picnic table to the pole? And she goes, oh, he's afraid someone will steal it. And I was like, well, then why don't we have a chain around our picnic table? She goes, well, it's usually people who think about doing bad things who assume bad things will happen. So my mother never put a chain on our picnic table because she would never steal someone's picnic table. But our neighbor, who would totally steal someone's picnic table, was like, I better put a chain on my picnic table. So I think with Bray, he is one of those people who wouldn't naturally do things bad to people. So he doesn't think that his actions will be interpreted as bad. Where Lex, on the other hand, he knows he'd do those things. So that's what he assumes about everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It does.
It does. I still have to laugh about the first scene, Lex going on about, he's going to find the locos and bring them here.
But I mean, in the truth,
the evidence of that, dude. Come on. But it's something Lex would totally do.
Yeah, but it's eventually.
But he does.
Bray actually does.
He does, and that's the thing about Lex, is that there are moments where he hints at things, and you go back, and it's like, oh yeah, wait, didn't you say that?
But the thing is, he's always out of context. That's what makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Like, he's kind of correct, but he's missing the context of the situation.
Mm-hmm. But isn't that life?
Bray totally does go to the locos, but it's not to betray anybody. It's because his brother just happens to lead them. Talk about being half right, half wrong. So crazy.
Yeah.
That's life, though.
We ought to try and secure that sewer entrance. It's the only way they can surprise us.
Have you got any ideas? Remember, it's our only emergency exit too.
The best thing would be an electronic alarm system.
What do we use for power?
Moving on from Bray a little bit, let's look at Jack and Dal. We have a moment in this episode where we see the two of them discuss security, and Dal raises the issue of putting an alarm system, while Jack is trying to think of how to utilize electricity. Do you think Jack is getting a bit pie in the sky, kind of trying to concentrate everything on electricity, whereas Dal has been more practical, said, yeah, we need to actually secure this place. What were your thoughts about the two different approaches to security from the two of them?
I think that it goes back to the whole security blanket thing. Jack's security blanket is dependent upon electricity and that things are going to be the way they used to be. Dal's is not. He's the one who's looking at things more practical and saying, we don't have electricity. We don't have ways of doing this. We need to go back to basics.
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree on you there. I think Jack was being the more practical one, because he's looking ahead. He's trying to find a way to get things to work for long term.
No, I totally agree with you on that.
He's already researching. He's looking for information on how to actually do stuff instead of just using something that will probably last a day on batteries.
I think it's a great example of how important both of those mind frames are. Jack is thinking towards the future, but he's also ignoring right now. He's never bothered to actually secure the mall because he's too busy thinking about how to make some long-lasting, sustainable plan while ignoring right now, which needs to be handled. Dal is living in the right now, but Dal's also not much of a dreamer, and he doesn't have any plans for the future. We need both of those people to get stuff done.
It's Pepper Potts Tony Stark relationship. I'm gonna keep on drawing back to that.
No, I know it's a really good example.
Yeah. No,
Jack needs someone like Dal to remind him, like, dude, that's great, but what about today? We do need to deal with today. And Dal needs someone like Jack who's like, dude, we need to live for more than today, you know? We need to think about the future, because otherwise, what's the frickin' point of any of this?
Jack does make a fair point, though. When Dal brings up blocking or securing the sewer entrance, Jack immediately goes to the point that it's also their only emergency exit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which never really made sense to me either, because if you, like, shopping malls here and where I'm at, like, we have several entrances, both lower and upper, plus this, the back entrances, plus, employee entrances and sewers and all of that jazz. So, like, that to me, like, unless Jack has gone through and barred some of those doors that we never see, but we are assuming he does, I never believed that was the only way in and out for them.
Yeah, but on most of their ways in and out, you see the grills that are all down.
But you're in the mall, you probably have access to how to open those and close those. As someone who's worked in malls, it's not the hardest thing in life.
Yeah, but a lot of those things require electricity.
No, they're mostly manual, in case there is a power failure. I mean, the only way that there would be an issue is if if the virus happened, or if they had the hindsight to lock up, and they locked them and took the keys. But then you could just pick it. They're not crazy locks. They're very easy.
You both are right. I mean, Hill's right about the fact that in reality, there's no way that the sewer entrance would be the only emergency exit out of this mall. And Sabine's right in the sense that for this reality, that is the way it's been set up. That there are no back doors and the other. So, I mean, you're both right. It's kind of a suspension of belief sort of thing. Like, okay, this is their reality. The sewer's their only emergency exit out. Even though in real life that would not be the case. I would never go shopping that mall.
No, I totally get it. I just, for 1 second, like, most things are pretty believable and plausible, but that's the one thing that I'm just like, you guys are so wrong right now. Like, I want to know why everything's barred up.
How did this place pass, inspection?
Yeah.
Yeah, but as you're saying, I mean, I think in the early days of the virus, people had hopes that they would get through this. So they would have locked some stuff.
But, like, even at that with the car, like, Lex and his crew, they could have picked those locks. We've seen the kids pick locks. They can do it. They're on the bottom. It's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Not going into how to break into malls, but...
It's also an interesting scene because, the whole episode is about trying to figure out who is useful to this group, what they can bring to the group. And you have all these massive ideas, but they have not found a way to work together. So you have Jack and Dal, who both have great ideas, but they're so irritated with each other, they can't move forward. They just snap at each other and go their separate ways. You have Lex, who's being completely unproductive, who will later prove that he can be a productive member of the group. But right now, he isn't being one. The kids, who are just being useless lemmings.
Kids.
They're just being kids. So yeah, it's a really, I think the whole point is to just show the tension of having to be with these people and how can you use them, how can they be useful to you, how can you work with them. You may all have great ideas, but you cannot get them to solidify.
You're saying, yeah, everyone has his uses. And then I instantly think of Zandra in one of those first scenes of this episode. Because he goes on like, I'd better go help Amber. She's not the baby type. But the moment she gets handed the baby, she starts complaining about, why should I do this?
I think people, and I know Sabine and I, we both work in childcare, people who don't normally deal with babies. Babies are cute. You want to hold it. The second you're past a baby, you're just like, oh no, I have to take care of this thing, and oh no.
Yeah, just like the fact that she points out that she has to help Amber because Amber's not the baby type.
Yeah. But because in that moment, she thinks she is the baby type, because ideally, everyone's the baby type until they get handed a baby.
If we are moving on to that moment, I think she just said it to annoy Lex.
Probably.
He's already really annoyed, and she's having fun messing with him. That's what I think. And she's like, I better go take care of that baby, that brat that you can't stand.
Yeah.
Annoying Lex is always a good enough reason.
If Trudy doesn't get those antibiotics, she'll die.
We've tried. There's nowhere else.
There is.
Yeah, obviously, we learned in this episode, obviously, Trudy's... Not everything's right with Trudy. She's got a fever that they're trying to work out. And obviously, we learned that Dal and his parents were actually doctors. What do you think about, like, his selflessness at heading out to Sector 15 on his own to search for antibiotics? And do you think it was kind of irresponsible, really, of Amber to let him go alone? Also, looking back, was anyone concerned for Trudy at all? Did you think anything might actually happen to her?
I was concerned for Trudy's health.
Mm-hmm.
On whether or not she was because, going to a high fever, then being ice cold, not being able to feed that baby, it's obviously that something's very, very wrong.
I think knowing as a kid, and this is like thinking back to when I watched it the first time with adult eyes, I think there are stakes even 5 episodes in that are being set, and I thought that maybe someone would die, I just didn't know who. Yeah. And obviously someone does die, and at this point you have possibly Trudy, you have possibly Dal. At any point in time there could be a raid and they could all die. But there are definitely stakes being set that the tone is someone will die in the next few episodes. We're not all getting out of this series alive, and it was just a waiting game of who that would be. And right now, looks like it's Trudy.
I really like that conversation between Amber and Dal, because the pacing is done so well in this episode for the rising tension, and you feel like there's a time clock, like something needs to be done, and you feel their frustration. They don't know how to help Trudy, but it's clearly very dangerous what's happening to her. She just brought life into the world, and even if you don't have any medical knowledge, women have died bringing children into the world before. And so you have a young woman who's way too young to be giving birth, and she's sick, and you don't know what to do. You don't have any medicine you can give her, and she's delirious. That's terrifying, I mean, a fever you can handle, but someone who's talking about death and dying, and oh my goodness, something's seriously wrong. And I found, you see Amber and Dal rushing around trying to find an answer. You see Celine doing her best to be there for Trudy and take care of the baby. You're getting to know these people and seeing who's actually trying to be productive towards this team, because that's who they are at their core. And when Amber has to make that choice, Dal says, there is some place we can get medicine, and Amber's just like, dude, you can't go out there. It's dangerous. We've already established that. And she even says, take Lex with you. She doesn't like Lex, but she would rather Dal have someone who's bigger and stronger and could possibly protect him. And then Dal, of course, points out, we can't trust him either. You know what I mean? I'd rather take my chances on my own, because for all I know, he would beat me up. And that moment, these are two friends who realize we might never see each other again. That's the responsibility we've taken on, And I think it's really beautiful, because Dal could have easily just said, I'm quit, I'm done.
Point agreed with.
Yeah, no, I did love that whole scene, or the whole scenes where, they were searching for an answer, and then, they kind of parted ways. That was, really well done.
Yeah. It might have been set up that Dal was dying. It's very believable that something bad is going to happen.
And even Bray says, the moment he hears Dal's going there, his first response is that it's in Sector 15. That's suicide.
Side.
Yeah.
I love what Amber says to him. Well, where were you? She's yours.
Just about to say that, yeah. I love Amber's response. Like, where were you?
Well, I was also in a bad spot because I'm Bray and I snuck into the demon dogs and meh. Sorry.
Yeah. Didn't get useful stuff though.
Yeah, right?
At the end of the day, I feel so bad for Amber in this episode. I feel so horrible for this girl because she is trying so hard to get people to work together, and she's literally putting out fires every direction she turns in. You know, the children are sick, and Zondra's like, they had the virus. Out. Every second Amber turns around, she can't focus on one problem because there's another problem. Yeah. None of these, she very few people she can depend on at this moment. She literally has nobody's
very competent at this point. Like, they're just kind of running around.
I mean, she literally only has Dal and, Celine and kind of Jack and kind of Zondra. That's it. That's all she's got. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you poor little thing. I'm so sorry. And she's handling it so well. But I'm like, why don't you just go with Dal to the cabin in the woods and leave these people?
I'm so sorry. Like, I give credit to, like, if these were real people, I should say this, but, like, Dal never at one point is like, yo, Amber, we could have avoided all of this bull.
Yeah, he never rubs it in her face.
Because that would have been me. I would have been like, we had an out, we could leave, but no.
But it says who Dal is at his core. Here's somebody who needs help, and despite the fact that he doesn't want to be here, and he doesn't want anything to do with this, he's willing to risk himself to save this girl, whatever it takes.
If Jack's going to be mean, we'll just have ourselves Ava.
Speaking of the kids and food, let's talk about Master Thief Paul. Like, what are your thoughts about them stealing the food and just stuffing themselves?
I love him.
I love that they're little kids. Of course,
it's kids being kids. It's kids being kids.
That's exactly what they would do. It's so realistic. That's their priority.
But who hasn't gone trick-or-treating on Halloween, was told only 1 or 2 pieces of candy, and then late at night snuck out and just gorged yourself and felt like death afterwards?
Yeah.
Was that Jack, only me, apparently?
No, like, Jack did really say the wrong thing. Like, him telling them no was just the wrong thing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay, now we're definitely gonna go and get it. It's like, yeah.
And of course, all they eat are sweets. They don't take anything practical.
Because they're kids.
I also like how even the children can't be trusted, because when Amber's like, where did you get this? I know it wasn't in the food store. And how quickly Paul lies about where they found it. And I'm like, wow, even the sweet one can't be trusted.
Paul is such a mastermind. I'm so sad that, like, we never really got to meet Paul. Like, I would have loved to see Paul in, like, season 3.
Yeah, there's so much potential there that could have...
Like...
Paul and C together would have been golden.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I could see them running scams together and just, like, help out my poor brother. He's deaf.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want that.
Speaking of the whole food store, is anyone else annoyed by the fact that there's this sign for a 300 megaton nuclear device there? Like, right next to it.
I mean...
If there's something like that there, it's like the food would be glow in the dark.
Here's my theory behind that, okay? We are in a shopping mall. Sometimes in shopping malls, there are weird stores that sell weird things. This is Jack's little, like, hidden area. So I think Jack found a cool sign in a shop in the mall and was like, I want that. That's neat. And brought it down to that area and posted it. There's no nuclear warheads in the... There never has been. There never will be.
Oh wow, that's the best theory I've ever heard. Yeah.
Sorry,
no, that's good.
I have a theory. Well, I don't have a theory. I have a love for all things atomical, and so, like, I have my own Fallout shelter sign. Like, in my room, I'm looking at it now. There is no fallout shelter anywhere in my house, but I have a sign for it.
Yeah.
So, I've been to a shop that was all for nuclear warfare memorabilia, and, I had a field day because I could buy everything. So I believe that there was one of those.
I'm in such agreement with Hill that I never even cared about that sign. And never once did I think, oh my gosh, what does that mean? Like, obviously, it's just a sign.
It's just a sign.
It's just a sign. They got it at Spencer's. It's just a sign.
Exactly. It's a sign from Spencer's.
For anyone listening, do not Google it. Why a 300 megaton nuclear device would be in a mall? Because you'll get in trouble. No, Hill don't.
I hear the sirens already. They're coming. You're being tracked.
Sabine, did you learn nothing from Jack? You can't say no to these people.
But how much do we get?
Well, you divide the volume by the amount of people.
How much do we get?
Well, I'm explaining.
Let me explain, Brains. Me and Ryan, get double.
Double? Why?
Because I say so. Howdy, Ryan.
Yeah, Lex.
Starting now.
Speaking of food, Amber's rationing system and Lex and Ryan's attempts to get out of it as much as possible. What were your thoughts about them kind of bullying Jack to kind of sabotage basically the whole rationing system?
It made total sense. I mean, Lex is the kind of guy who would do that.
He is, but I mean, water's like so precious. Don't have so much. Like, I get it, but yeah.
These are the moments when I have difficulty with Lex, because I really do like Lex a lot, and I find him to be a very compelling character, but I just hate when Lex is being completely unproductive for no reason, really. He's just showing himself at his worst, and I'm just like, this episode is very frustrating with me with Lex, because he offers zero solutions to anything. All he does is offer more problems and arguments just for the sake of it, and it just drives me a little nuts. I mean, I don't care that he's bullying Jack, because Jack is hoarding food too, you know what I mean? So, like, whatever. But it's just very frustrating, because he's so quick to call out anybody else, or even the smallest thing. But it's just like, Lex, you are no better. You are much worse. And you don't have any evidence against these other people. And I don't even know why Amber would be okay with Lex it's like she sees him. She knows what he's already like. She's already pegged him. And yet she's like, Dal, take Lex with you. Okay, yeah, Lex, go with Jack and check the water. Like, Amber, you're not that dumb. You already know what kind of guy he is. And the child in me finds it frustrating, because I would have never been bullied by someone like Lex. I would have been far more like Amber. Like, oh, please, you know what I mean? And so seeing these kids so easily bullied by Lex is just like, ugh, so hard. So
I think it's like what you said earlier, because Amber was putting out so many fires, she just had to put Lex somewhere. So she said, no. I think she just had to get him out of the way.
Here's kind of my theory about it. Once again, one of those weird Hillary theories. It is kind of silly to me that all of their water, you need. So, like, all of their water is in a tank on the roof, which, once again, later on, springs a leak, and that's their life source. So I think this was writers trying to think of a way to have the plot point and the drama of having the water tank spring a lake, but also have a way for them to survive and still have water stashed somewhere where it could be used, even though we've had this situation. So, like, it was convenient to have Lex steal water, but I think kind of the reasoning behind it was that so they would have that hoard to go back to in the plot of, like, it could have been Ryan, it could have been anyone, but they needed to have someone take water from the tap and hoard it out so that when the tank leaked, they had water.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I do see what you're saying, but
I don't know. I think Hill's right. It was very. It was obviously they needed to set up a red herring for the water and for plot points on the road. And I honestly think it made sense. Like I said, for a big city building to have a water reservoir on hand, in case the pipes burst. Stuff like that.
You gotta work this thing.
Of course.
Try pregnancy. Grow up.
I can tell you about pregnancy, Amber. You don't need a laptop for that. Just a lap. You only have to say the word.
And have Zandra scratch my eyes out?
She fancies me, you reckon?
Doesn't every girl?
Oh yeah. Let's move on to. Well, let's move back to Lex. Lex and his advances on Amber. Oh, this is a good subject. I mean, okay, we talked about the two before, but let's talk about it in another way, because he's making advances on Zandra, and he's kind of almost got her in his pocket. So why do you think he's specifically making advances at Amber at this time? Do you think it is because he likes that kind of bossy personality that he can't get, or do you think it's the fact that he knows that she likes Bray, that's really his driving point to kind of flirt with her? What do you think is his reasons?
I think he has multiple reasons for doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, it would annoy the hell out of Zandra. And, well, obviously there's the whole Bray thing. And Lex likes being in control. He likes being the guy girls admire. And, well, Amber's the one person who doesn't seem to admire him.
Yeah, I think it goes back to his pre-tribe where it said he was always kind of around girls all the time. Girls always wanted to be around him, and because Amber's kind of the one person he can't get to follow him around, that he's trying to reel her in, and also it annoys Zandra, and maybe if he annoys Zandra enough, she'll drop down on her hands and knees and beg for him, and it's a power move. But I loved him. I had to throw that in there.
It's a pretty cliche story point, you have this guy, very alpha, very aggressive, and there's the one girl he's not afraid of him, who's not interested in him, who's willing to call him out, who's not fascinated by him, he's not her Edward Cullen, she's not falling for any of that, and of course he's going to find that intriguing, and I do think, just like Sabine said, there's multiple reasons, and it is a power play, and I love her reaction to it. I really do. Because I would have never fallen for a guy like that at her age. I love the fact that Amber sees right through him. I love that she's disgusted with him most of the time, and she just wants to work with him on a purely platonic base, and she just seems so frustrated with the fact it's you could be useful, okay? There's so much you could give. Would you just freaking get off your butt and help me and stop making things difficult for me all the time? I love that moment. It's so well acted. Both of them are so good in that moment. And Caleb looks like he's having the time of his life. It is this horrible person because he's so gross. He's so gross in that moment. And
it's one of my favorite scenes. It's
beautiful. The acting is on point. I really do love that scene. They snap back at each other. It's very fun. It's like a 1940s screwball romantic comedy. It's really great. And but I love the way it ends. I'm very proud of Amber. I'm like, that's right, girl. Do not fall for that, because Lex is being a pig. You know what I mean? There's nothing redeemable about his actions, and I love the fact that she's just like, I'm not falling for this. Just cut it out. It's gross. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love his reaction too. He's so insulted. His ego's all bruised.
I love that whole entire scene. The two snapping at each other. Now just in the middle, working on his laptop.
And he's just like,
you think she fancies me? Doesn't every girl? Oh, every line is beautiful. It's a great scene.
Yeah,
great scene. Him in the shopping cart too.
Yeah, you have that final bit where Amber just pushes him over, and
Colin, are you happy with that?
Yeah.
Who's fault for you?
Stupid cow. Yes.
Because he was laying it on. He was putting it. He really thought he was making some kind of headway. And she was like, "Are you freaking kidding me right now? I'm trying to save someone's life." No time for this. I also love what this is just a continuation of that scene. Well, it's right before that scene when Dal's leaving. She's like, "Well, let me go with you," and you can hear Lex in the background.
Yes.
Yeah.
Start him laughing. Oh my goodness, that's such perfect comedic timing.
That was so good, yeah.
I was like, "You're gonna leave the mall with him and John?" I love that so much.
Yeah. This is probably my favorite scene.
I don't know what he's laughing at, but Caleb is
at his game or whatever he was doing. Or no, they took it by that point. I don't know. He's just laughing.
Pitch perfect acting there. Great timing. Just wonderful.
I've been getting some things for the baby. Got some nappies. A bottle. And formula.
I knew you hadn't left.
Left.
Well, some of the others thought you'd... Well...
Run out on Trudy.
I knew you hadn't. You're not like that.
Cool. So that leads us to our final thoughts on the episode. So obviously the episode ends with Bray coming back. I mean, there's pretty much only two people in the mall who kind of believed in Bray, which was obviously Zandra and Celine. And obviously the revelation that Dal's in danger. Yeah, what were your thoughts about that last part of the scene?
It's actually kind of interesting. I like the fact that Amber expresses her frustration that, Bray just left without telling anybody. He's shocked that anyone would be surprised that he wouldn't come back. And, he obviously expresses his remorse. He didn't realize Trudy would get sick because he didn't give her a bath. And she just gave birth, Bray. Change your clothes, for Pete's sake. Anyway, sorry. So I like that, and I like the look on his face after Amber says, "Where were you? She's your responsibility."
Yeah.
Because I almost feel like you're getting a hint of the fact that Bray is he's tired of this. He's ready to push Trudy on to the person who should be taking care of her, and it's another hint that there's way more going on between them and the baby, and that look on his face, I'm just like, what is... Because I remember at the time, I was just like, what is going on with you? Like, why... Because I no longer believed she was his girlfriend, but I was trying to figure out why he was taking care of her when I saw that expression, and I really felt like, why did you take her on? Because you seem to care about her, but you keep giving me these little looks that say that this is a burden you didn't ask for and you don't want. And then, of course, you have the cliffhanger of Dal skating into the fog with the logo. It's so dramatic.
It's a setup. Someone's going to die.
I'm like, Dal, take the skates off. You can run faster.
Right?
He's a terrible rollerblader.
Yeah,
really
is.
Just take them off. Run, Dal. Just run. You can't corner worth a damn in those things. But yeah, I do think it goes by so quick. There's so many things happening, and there's all this tension, and then the episode's over, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's already done? We're already finished? Like, what's going to happen? What's going on? It's a great
This was a very fast-paced episode.
Yeah.
It was really good.
It's a good one.
Obviously, yeah, written by Harry Duffin, so yeah.
Hey. That's our boy. No, I don't know.
Oh, yes. Okay, so that leads us to our favourite quotes of the episode. Oh, this is a good one. There's so many good quotes. Where to start? This was so tough. Okay. Lex or Zandra?
You go for Lex, I go for Sandra.
I'm going to go for Zandra. It has to be.
I miss television. It's boring now.
Boring? Which planet are you living on, Zandra?
What do you mean?
Well, you could call it scary, or hard, or dangerous. But boring isn't a word I'd use.
Well, I miss it anyway. I used to watch all the soaps. Never missed. I could tell you everything about all the characters.
Fascinating.
Now they're not there anymore. I don't know what they're doing.
They're not doing anything, Zandra. They weren't real.
I love the delivery. I love the line. It's so good.
I like that line.
I'm going with that. That's my favourite line. But there's so many good ones.
I think for me, it's another Sandra one. The moment,
A different one?
yeah, a different one for once, because when Sandra is teasing Dal about knowing all the medical stuff, and he tells her that his parents were doctors, her response is, "I just wish I could cut my tongue out sometimes."
Did you swallow a medical book or something?
My father was a doctor. So was my mom. Satisfied?
I just wish I could cut my tongue out sometimes.
And I think we've clearly all felt like that at moments in our life. And she finally realizes that she probably shouldn't say everything that pops into her little head.
Ryan's reaction to the baby crying.
What's that?
It's just the baby, Ryan.
What's wrong with it? Sounds like it's being murdered.
Like he's never heard of that before. What is that? Sounds like it's being murdered. Like, have you never heard a baby cry? It's so funny. I love that.
But once again, Ryan is definitely the person who would like want to hold the baby, and then the second you give him the baby, he's just like, I didn't think you would take me seriously. Like, get it away from me. Like,
there's a line that I liked from Celine. It's nothing special, but I love the delivery, and it says so much about Celine's heart when she's trying to give the baby coffee creamer with water and sugar. And Amber's just like, I don't think that's a very good idea. And she's like, well, what else are we supposed to do? She's starving.
No, you hold her. I'll try and get her to drink this. What is it? It's that creamer stuff you put in coffee. Milk substitute.
Will it be alright for her?
Well, it's mostly water, and I added a bit of sugar. I don't think that's a very good idea, Celine. Well, what else are we gonna give her? Listen to her. She's starving.
It's so beautiful, just this young woman, her heart and how she cares about people, and she has no reason to care about Trudy or this baby, but she's just taken it upon herself. I just love the line delivery and the way she takes Brady in her arms, and how she's made this her problem, and it's true. It's like, can you listen to a crying baby and not try to fix it, you know? And
I actually think she didn't have the worst idea in the world. Because it's water, she added a bit of sugar.
But coffee creamer.
It's better than
nothing. But I think it's better than nothing. I agree. You know, in an emergency situation, it's better to get the baby hydrated than anything else, you know?
Yeah. And at least she'd be giving it a tiny bit of sugar, you know?
Tiniest bit of sustenance. You know, this kid is starving, it's thirsty, it's not getting any of its nutrients from its mother anymore. Oh, and even though Trudy doesn't actually say anything, she just says, I can't. When Celine says, you know, can't you try to feed her? And, you know, Trudy's like, I can't. And then there's this look on her face. And I remember this. When my son was born, I planned my son down to the day of conception. I was excited to be a mother, okay? But the minute he was born, the next morning, I'm sitting on the hospital bed with this baby, this stranger, and I'm trying to eat my breakfast, and he's whinging, and so I'm giving him my finger to suck, and I'm trying to eat with one hand, and it suddenly hits me. I don't know what to do with this screaming, crying stranger who's demanding, you know, food, shelter, and a college education. And I see when Trudy says, I can't, and then you just see that look on her face as Brady is screaming. I'm like, oh my gosh, you poor little thing. I know how this feels. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. You're too young. You shouldn't be going through this.
I actually went back a lot to these first episodes when my son was just born. Because so many things that you see Trudy do, it just felt so real at that moment.
But my favorite line of the show, of this episode, is Amber, falling for me, heavy legs.
You fancy a ride, babe? On my lap. What's the rush? If there's no medication to save her.
Take your hands off me.
What if I don't?
Fallen for me, have you, Lex?
You'd be so lucky. Who'd fancy you, you stuck-up cow?
The delivery's beautiful. The scene is amazing. The two of them are totally on point. They just nail that entire scene. And I just love the look on her face as she throws him over, and I'm like, that's right. And Lex is utter shock. It's so beautiful.
Smug. It's so smug.
Fallen for me, have you, Lex? Love it.
Yeah, that's so good. Be lucky you stuck up. Was it cow?
You stuck up cow.
They're so good. I like them.
But once again, Lex doesn't cuss. Kid show.
Well, I love that slang. I know this is not the topic, but I love that strange slang. I now use it in my life
all the time.
Like, I don't call things cans. I call them tins. I don't call it a flashlight. I call it a torch.
Well, yeah.
I just picked up on it. That I can't say project. I say project. I can't. It's stuck with me. It's with me forever now. It's changed.
Yeah.
But Lex actually saying that, it's an expression that we actually use.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know. You guys have it as an expression. We do not. As uncivilized Americans.
And we don't use it, and now it's just become a part of my lexicon. Yeah.
I do it all the time, too. I call people cows.
It's gotten so bad that when I was first doing fan fiction, I would submit it to a different site, and they would proofread it. And for the longest time, they didn't know if I was American or British, because I was always mixing up the slang.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be true to the show.
I will always mix up all the different slang from all the different forms of English.
It is really cool when they invent these kind of substitute words, because it does stay with you for a long time.
Mm-hmm. I cuss in Chinese. Thanks, Firefly.
And you're
it's true.
I'm still stuck on Farscape, Frel. I say that.
Frack.
What the frack?
That leads us to our Lex's Zing of the Week. Do you have one, Hill? There must be plenty.
It is. Well, okay, so I said when we get to my absolute favorite line, you guys will know about it. And guess what today is?
Yay!
Today is the day. So probably one of my favorite Lex lines of all time is, I can tell you all about pregnancy, Amber. You don't need a laptop for that, just a lap. You only have to say the word.
I can tell you about pregnancy, Amber. You don't need a laptop for that, just a lap.
I think that's hilarious.
I absolutely love that line.
And I like the little
clap on his lap.
And yeah, he's sitting in that little trolley thing, which looks to be the most uncomfortable and comfortable thing, both in the same realm of space. Like, the whole thing.
Caleb is having way too much fun, and he's having the time of his life.
Yeah. And he scoots it around by riding on. It's just that whole scene. The whole scene makes me happy.
As an 80s kid, we used to play with shopping trolleys.
Oh yeah, no.
You got one of those, your day was booked.
Yeah, I still have a scar from playing with a trolley and didn't realize I was hurting myself because I was having too much fun. And I was a bloody mess, but I was whatever. It was really funny, actually.
So that brings episode 5 to a close. So much. I went really quick. Thanks to the panel. Do send in your comments and suggestions. We're available on iTunes and now Google Podcasts. And see you in episode 6. Until next time, bye.
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 Bye.